file one item, that is AB 711 by Assemblymember Calderon, who we would like to see in the committee room as soon as possible. There you are. Very good. Thank you. We need another minute.
Okay.
Enough for a roll call? And do you need a response from Bob on his note?
We have enough.
Okay. Senate Appropriations will come to order. Please call the roll.
Kehoe?
Aye. Here.
Here. Cox?
Here.
Cox here. Alquist? Here. Alquist here. Corbett? Here. Corbett here. Denham? What's here? Leno?
Here.
Leno here. Price? Walters? Wolk? Here. Wolk here. Price?
Here.
Here. Wyland? Yee? Okay, we got it up.
All right. We have a quorum. Assemblymember Calderon, do you want to present AB 711?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, before he makes his presentation, I just want to call to your attention, this is a bill that has not had a policy hearing. It would not, I frankly wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't call that to your attention and ask this Appropriations Committee to vote to send this back to rules, and that would be my motion, only because of the fact that it has not had a policy hearing.
Thank you, Senator Cox. Members, I would just say this bill was before rules last year. And in talking to staff, local government had looked at it. It's purely an appropriations bill. It was assigned directly to the fiscal committee. So I would say that first of all, I'm opposed to the motion by Senator Cox. It does not need to go to local government. It's a $45,000 allocation. There is one hitch that I will discuss. If you'll indulge me, I'll just let everyone know, members of the committee. Last week I had asked staff to identify funds for the allocation of the $45,000 to allow the fiscal analysis down in East Los Angeles to go forward. They located very appropriately Main Street funds, which are about economic development in neighborhood commercial areas, all well and good, until we heard from Department of Finance this morning that there is a fund, but there's no money in it at this time. Senator Calderon has an urgency measure before us because some of the local analysis has to get completed well before June. I think it's somewhere
End of this month.
Yeah, the end of this month. So what I would like to do, assuming the Vice Chair's motion does not pass, and I hope it doesn't, is to have the author take an amendment that would allow us to work on language to identify the appropriate funds and then have Department of Finance okay the allocation once those funds are identified, up to a maximum of $45,000. But first, we have before us legitimately a motion by the Vice Chair, Senator Cox, to refer the bill back to Policy Committee. The item is properly before the Fiscal Committee, Senate Appropriations, so I'd ask you to vote no on the motion. Any other comments? All righty, we'll take the roll.
Kehoe?
No.
Kehoe, no. Cox?
Aye.
Cox, aye. Alquist?
No.
Alquist, no. Corbett?
No.
Corbett, no. Denham? Leno?
No.
Leno, no. Price?
No.
Price, no. Walters? Wolk?
No.
Wolk, no. Wyland? Yee? No. Yee, no. 7-1.
7-1. The motion is
1-7. Actually.
1-7. Right. The motion is denied. Again, we have before us AB 711 with author's amendments that will have to be prepared by the committee to specify the Department of Finance's approval of the allocation when the funds are properly identified, up to $45,000.
Madam Chair, may we appropriate the first $45,000?
Yes,
Okay.
we'll make the language.
What is the first 45,000?
In other words, as it will give priority to the first 45,000 that will go to incorporation of whatever funds come in.
If, for example, we determine that the Main Street funds the Main Street Fund account will receive funds from the wherever they come from, I'm assuming it's a local jurisdiction, the first $45,000 will go to the East Los Angeles project. Anything further, Mr. Calderon? You want to give us a little background on the bill?
Yeah, maybe give a little bit of background on the bill. First of all, the monies that we are discussing today are not public. They're not taxpayer dollars. They come from fees, federal funds, and other private funds. So we're not talking about something that's going to impact the general fund or impact the taxpayers in that sense. This is a bill to provide the last $45,000 necessary to do the fiscal analysis to determine whether or not East LA should be incorporated. A preliminary analysis was done, and the determination was that the city, once formed, would bring in $51 million and would have expenses of $45 million. This is an issue that is not local to just East Los Angeles. This is a symbol in Latino community in terms of helping East Los Angeles get self-determination. Right now, they're part of a county of Los Angeles, and the county of Los Angeles, I think, has 9 million, 10 million people. And whereas Ms. Molina does a great job of trying to recognize the concerns, we all know that it's better to have direct impact in terms of your fire service, in terms of your police service, in terms of your environmental issues, in terms of business development. And in particular, in terms of environmental issues, this is probably the most heavily polluted area, air-wise and ground pollution. And so these are all issues that can improve the quality of life for the people of East Los Angeles. And I realize that we're appropriating state funds, but it's been done before. It was done for, interestingly enough, the San Fernando Valley when it was trying to secede from the city of Los Angeles. The money was provided, but the resolution failed. The election failed. Now, I will point out that 33% of the people, the population of East Los Angeles, signed a petition for incorporation. So this is something that the community really desires and hopes for. And so they've gone far enough. They've raised $90,000, $95,000 on their own, and now they're up against the deadline. And we're trying to provide some help for them in that regard.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Calderon. Questions, members? Mr. Price.
Quick question. What's the position of the county, or have they taken a position yet, or do they take a position at this point, or what's the...
Well, I've spoken to, I'm sorry, who was it, LAFCO? I'm sorry, who?
Has the county taken a position?
The county.
The county's
What's
taking
their...
no position. Ms. Molina is publicly neutral.
Any other comments, members?
Yes. Is there opposition?
We'll take testimony but first a comment from Senator Leno.
Do you know in what kind of denominations the 90,000 privately raised dollars came in? Were they very small contributions? Was there a donor who came in with 50 or 25 or 10, or was it all under 1,000? Do you have any idea?
It was combined. It was a very small contribution. There were some large contributions. Ms. Romero actually engaged in some of the fundraising, so maybe she might have some insight.
Senator?
This is, and again, I represent East LA. This came in various amounts. It's a high poverty community. I personally contributed $5,000 to the committee. Other members of the Latino caucus have contributed as well. There have been others who are genuinely rooting for East LA have contributed. A lot of these have come in small amounts, $5, $10, $25. Like in anything, you're going to find the gamut.
The reason I ask is, though it's a relatively small amount of money, whether we're talking public or private, it would just seem to me that there might be a deep pocket or two, someone from the entertainment industry who could easily just close this conversation for us. But I guess that hasn't happened. I wondered if those avenues were explored.
Well, I don't know if those avenues have been explored. And you're right, it's such a small amount of money that I didn't even feel that it would make a blip on the radar in terms of in terms of any drag on the general fund, and which is why this particular fund was identified. I will point out, though, that in the time that the time during which they have had to raise this money is right in the middle of the recession. So it's been a little more difficult to get the big contributions. I've attempted to contact Silicon Valley, and whereas they like to offer computers and other software, they never said no, but we never could get them together to raise the money.
And then is Finance going to tell us about the fund, what money's come into the fund, why is it that it's empty right now, and all those interesting facts?
We will hear from Finance. So you go right ahead.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Miriam Ingenito with the Department of Finance. This fund is funded through private contributions, federal funds, and fees for services. The fund had a zero balance into late last year, and my initial analysis, which is why I wasn't able to provide information to the committee sooner, so that it had a present balance of approximately zero. So I had them pull the controller's report this morning, and from the controller's report, it does have a balance of $0 in the fund. So again, they're not from a set source. There's not a set fee for service or a type of funding that we can count on to come in to fill this fund up. I do note that the budget does include $175,000 appropriation authority to the Department of Parks and Recreation, but that is for local assistance grants. Should that appropriation not come forward or not those funds not actually materialize, then the local grants wouldn't be awarded. And so, unlike a loan, as in the case of this bill, where dollars actually have to be removed, there are immediate consequences to this versus making saying, should this money come in, you have the appropriation authority to provide those grants consistent with the law. So,
the Chair, just follow up a little bit.
Certainly.
Can you give us an example of who would pay into the fund, and also did it have a high balance last year of $25,000 or $500,000?
It has had, and I didn't bring the fund condition with me, but it has had a very low balance in the past, is my understanding, and I don't have a history with me as to who has made those contributions in the past.
Even categorically, if not specifically?
From what's in our fund manual, it just says public, from federal funds or private contributions.
Senator Woke and then Senator Corbett.
Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, if I can try and respond to that question, I do have a Department of Finance report dated 04. But it identifies the major revenue source of the fund as private contribution, federal funds, and fees for service.
Right. We have that report here. That's in the background for your analysis. But it doesn't give more specifics. I think that's what you're looking for, Senator.
Just a better idea as to how the fund gets filled.
Senator Woke and then Senator Corbett and then Senator Cox.
I just have a question about the timing. This is here because of a rules decision last year?
Yes.
Okay. Why now? Why here? What is the deadline?
Deadline's the end of this month.
For
the deadline's the end of this month.
For LAFCO?
For the community to provide the funds necessary for the fiscal analysis. It's been extended, okay, I think, over a year and a half.
Oh, it's been extended by LAFCO?
Yes.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And in fact, LAFCO, I've spoken with LAFCO, and if they know the money's coming, if they see the money that it's on its way, they'll extend the deadline for the analysis.
Okay.
So what happened to the bill between the time rules agreed that it should go to approps and now? Did it?
Nothing. In other words, this was a different bill. This was a bill, ironically enough, where I had included a change in how we collect our use tax, which was scored by FTB or BOE to be $500 million, and it was a new source of income not being identified, and with no effort ever to try and collect it. So it was brand new money.
Mm-hmm.
and it was in my bill 711, and it got stolen for budget purposes. I wanted 50 million of it for piracy, but that didn't work out. So much
Nice
for
try.
so much for being creative.
It's been in this committee since last August.
But that's what it was before. Then when the community came to me, I represent East Los Angeles as well. Then we looked for a vehicle, and this was the only one that was on a path that would get them to where they wanted to go. At that time, they had a deadline, but that was extended for 6 months because of this legislation.
Okay. Thank you.
Senator Corbett?
My question has been answered by the person from Finance, but I just wanted to give you an opportunity to speak to the fact that this is a loan, and this is authorized under law to request such sort of loan. Maybe you could just speak to the loan, the fact that the intent is that it'll be repaid. And
Absolutely. The intent is that it will be paid. This is established law. We're utilizing a process which is already in place, and the money will be loaned and repaid once and if the city is incorporated. In the first 2 years, it has to be paid back.
Senator Cox?
Madam Chair, members, let me say to you that in the last 10 years in Sacramento County, there have in fact been 3 new cities, and there is in the process of another city that is attempting to raise the money to pay for the LAFCO incorporation numbers. And so we do in fact have some precedent. Citrus Heights was formed in the last 10 years, Rancho Cordova, Elk Grove. And members, let me just say to you that I have always been in favor of the right of self-determination. And I feel so strongly that the state of California ought not to engage in the financing of this particular endeavor. They have the ability to raise the money. You've already heard Senator Calderon say that this is a loan. So they have the ability to go talk to cities in the Los Angeles and Southern California, wherever, just like Rancho Cordova did, just like Citrus Heights, just like Elk Grove. But now we have a situation of where prominent senators, and rightfully so, are weighing in saying, well, let's let the state do this. And even though the state of California doesn't have any money, we're going to, in fact, loan them $45,000 if that account ever gets $45,000 in the account. And so it just seems to me that this is one more step down that slippery slope that we ought not to be taking. And I can guarantee you that if you go back home and you ask if there's any incorporation efforts back home, you immediately are going to find yourself in a situation, you did it for East L.A., so why can't you do it for us? You did it for $45,000, so why can't you do it for $65,000? You did it for $45,000, so why can't you do it for $105,000? Madam Chair, members, I'm simply telling you it's not prudent, it's not right, and we ought not to do it. Tough love, but it's just one of those things.
Thank you, Senator Cox. On your close, Senator Yee, just because we are supposed to be heading into session, members.
Just a quick question, Senator Calderon. You mentioned that the amount would be repaid if and when the city comes to fruition.
Yes.
Or comes to life. What if the city does not come to life?
Then the loan is forgiven.
Any other comments, members?
Yeah, just a follow-up
Mr.
comment.
Price.
The forgiveness of that loan is that the common procedure in a situation like this?
That's the established law.
Okay, cool.
Madam Chair, I move the bill as amended.
Thank you. There has been a motion to move with author's amendments that will be prepared. Would you like to close?
Yes, Madam Chair, only to say that this was done in 2002, apparently, and there was no flood of applications for the state to do Me Too after San Fernando Valley. So I don't think that it's necessarily true that you're going to have a flood of Me Toos. But I do agree that we don't have any money, and in fact we gave $6 billion to corporations last year, and I'm glad you feel that way because I've got a bill that will now require tax expenditures to be incorporated as part of the budget, and that way we can determine what our priorities are. This is a very, very small amount, but it will say so much to a community that has been waiting so long for some control over their lives.
Thank you. Call the roll.
Kehoe?
Motion by Leno, yeah. Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Cox?
No.
Cox, no. Alquist?
Aye.
Alquist, aye. Corbett?
Aye.
Corbett, aye. Denham? Leno?
Aye.
Leno, aye. Price?
Aye.
Price, aye. Walters? Wolk? Wolk, aye. Wyland?
No.
Wyland, no. Yee? Yee, aye. 7-2.
7-2, that bill is out.
Thank you.
The other bill has been pulled.
We might get them
Yes.
to all wear helmets, Lee. Get them to wear helmets.
Appropriations is adjourned.
You got a franchise.